Hello, hello, hello. It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Happy Monday. I hope all is well. I hope you're having an amazing day and that your week has gotten off to a great start. I know we lost an hour, guys. For some of you, you probably don't care. For me, it does make a little difference, especially like the first week. I'm kind of like, ugh, like I kind of feel like I'm rushing or that I lost some time that I really needed. And I don't even know why we have to keep going through this. It was actually lightening up. The day was becoming longer on its own naturally. So I don't know why we have to keep doing this, or fast forwarding at all. But anyway, I hope it hasn't disrupted your day too much or disrupted your mood because we are here to talk about Married to Medicine. We are nearing the end of their season. This is season 11, episode 14, and it was called Choosing Sides. Like I said, the episode was okay. It wasn't my favorite episode, but it wasn't necessarily bad either. It did give us, content and conversations that we could actually have about what was going on. So I can appreciate them for that. So it actually opens up with Dr. Simone going to Dr. Jackie's office for lunch. And let me just say, I love when Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie are together. They are friends. They've always been really, really good friends. And I've always appreciated their sisterhood and their friendship, not only as doctors, but as, best friends. I really, really like their dynamic. So it was good to see them. So they were talking. And of course, the topic of conversation for them it started off with Phaedra. So Dr. Jackie was talking to Simone about Phaedra. Number one, Phaedra paid the remaining balance for their charity event. I think she owed like 40,000 and some change, and she actually wrote Dr. Jackie a check for that. So kudos to Phaedra. She made good on her promise. I know it doesn't matter what she's done in the past. She made good on this promise. So kudos to her for that. And then they went on to talk about how Phaedra talked about, how she doesn't want to be around the ladies. Yes, we know that she was going back to the Real Housewives of Atlanta. We know all of that. But I will say that I kind of agree with Phaedra. I've said that in my previous videos. I do agree with Phaedra. I just kind of feel like the ladies didn't welcome Phaedra as much. Of course, we know Phaedra is very stoic. She doesn't talk a lot. She doesn't share a lot. We do know that. But at the same time, I just felt like, the ladies sort of pushed for Phaedra to come on the show. And it's like, you got what you got, ladies. Like, now you want to talk about her and make it seem like she's the worst person in the world. But, you didn't know what you were bargaining for. You got something. You got what you bargained for because you thought it was going to be like great for your show just to get the eyeballs. And then it turned out really not to be that. So it's kind of like, you might as well call it even. Phaedra was kind of telling them like about how the whole issue with, Apollo coming. Phaedra said, yes, she knew Apollo was coming. And she did mention to Jackie that, when Phaedra invited Apollo to the reunion last year, it was more of a controlled environment. And I can kind of understand that. Apollo had to come in. He came in for like a segment or two. He said a few words. Andy Cohen asked him a couple of questions and he was out the door. He had to exit the building. Apollo couldn't really do what Apollo does or probably wanted to do because again it was more of a controlled environment. Okay, now we fast forward to the trip or the couple's trip or the cast trip this year, and the atmosphere is a little more relaxed, and Apollo could be more of himself. He could do a lot more, he could say a lot more, he could lie as much as he wanted to. And so I do understand where Phaedra's coming from. Phaedra told Jackie that Apollo tends to act up whenever there is a man around. And, of course, Dr. Simone was acting like, she was in La La Land about it. She was sort of saying, okay, but why would it be that way, when they have been separated or divorced for several years? Where Dr. Simone, you don't know how Cecil would have treated you or acted towards you had you guys really gone through with your divorce. You don't know. And so the thing about it is oftentimes I notice that it's so easy and I find that women oftentimes we're so quick in general to just rush to the man's side and believe him and not believe the woman. And I don't really get that because, everyone has sort of experienced that. Like, I have been in situations where I've had an ex and I've been in a whole new relationship, a whole new situation. And the thing about it is, yes, my exes have sort of acted a little maybe jealous or a little possessive, and not, they didn't cause ruckus or they didn't cause a problem, but it could have potentially gone there. Had, both parties been a little more immature, they weren't. But yes, things were said that probably were a little inappropriate even to me, just in saying like they didn't particularly like the guy that I was with, or made little comments and stuff like that. So yeah, those type of things can happen. Like, it's not so far-fetched, it's not so, completely like out of this world where that can't happen. Phaedra and Apollo were married, and I can see Apollo becoming a little jealous. Oftentimes, men, they can have as many women as they want, and it's okay, and no one can say anything to them. But when a woman sort of moves on and she has someone, whether she's getting married again or whether it's just a little situation or whether it's just, a friend or whatever, oftentimes a man can show some jealousy. So I can believe Phaedra on that. And I don't even understand how these 50-plus-year-old women like Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie can't receive that or understand that. If you have an ex and your ex is around, oftentimes he can show signs of jealousy. Oftentimes he can show signs of resentment. It may not, again, lead to a fight or an altercation or even a verbal exchange between the other men. But there are times where your ex can make comments to you or act a certain way towards you because they really don't like the fact that you have moved on. Plain and simple, folks. That's just what it is. And let's accept it for what it is. Just because you don't like Phaedra, don't try to make it seem like Phaedra just pulled something out of the thin air. It happens, people. But anyway, we'll go on. Like I said, it just shows just how little this group really cared for Phaedra. But, it's okay. Because this is not a Phaedra Park stand. This is not, I'm not here, oh yeah, I'm Team Phaedra. It's not about that. It's about what's right and what's wrong. So anyway, we'll go on. The conversation continues. So they moved on from Phaedra, and then they started talking about Dr. G. And we all know that Dr. G is now creating an issue with the group because it has been said that he was filing charges. And so, of course, it doesn't sit well with the ladies. I understand it. Here's the thing. It's not about taking sides, but I think that Dr. G is actually going way too far with this. Again, Dr. G and King only had a verbal exchange. There really wasn't even an altercation per se. It could have gone that way, but it didn't get that far because, again, Shaq was there. Dr. G was not hit, he was not touched, or he was not harmed in any way. They were exchanging words, and that's it. So Dr. G is going too far. So Simone shared with Dr. Jackie Dr. G's song that he wrote, and I guess, of course, Dr. G sent it to Cecil, or however he got it. Maybe Eugene sent it to Toya, and Toya sent it to Dr. Simone. However it happened, they were able to see it, and they were kind of just looking at Dr. G in shock. And they were also laughing at him. They weren't laughing with him. They were laughing at him because it is ridiculous for Dr. G to make up this song about his ex-wife that has clearly moved on and is happy. And she's happy in her new relationship. So that was the end of that scene. So the next scene we go to is Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Contessa. They actually meet up and they're having lunch. And, I think Contessa seemed very calm. Heavenly seemed a little nervous. That's just me just watching the body language. Heavenly was a little nervous. She didn't know how it was going to go, and she really wanted to sort of control the narrative, but Dr. Contessa kept everything calm. They were talking. They said that they wanted to move forward. Dr. Contessa said that, Dr. Contessa came in peace. Dr. Heavenly said, Contessa, I think that you do have to take ownership and responsibility for what you did for the demise of our friendship. And she said, the only thing I said to you, Contessa, is that if you're going to stay with your man, you need to stop running your mouth or stop talking. We know Heavenly has said that 1,000,001 times. She said that. And we all know from maybe season 6, 7, and onward. We know that Dr. Contessa and Dr. Scott Rant had some marital issues. And Dr. Contessa was very vocal about how she felt. She thought she was talking among friends, and she was being passive aggressive, and she was sort of letting the cat out of the bag of what Scott was doing to her, as women do. It was nothing out of the norm. But again, I do believe that Contessa did that because, again, yes, it was a storyline. And also, she felt like she was among other women who had also gone through issues with their husbands, and she felt comfortable enough to discuss what was going on. We can all say maybe, we agree with how she did it, or we may disagree with how she did it. But at the end of the day, Contessa still did not expect Dr. Heavenly, who is her best friend or her BFF at that time, to go as far as she did. Heavenly said, I wanted you to stop talking, but Heavenly, you wanted Contessa to stop talking, but you still haven't stopped talking about it. You're still talking about that Scott is abusive to this day on your YouTube page, on your Patreon page, or whatever, public platform or social media platform that you're using. You're still talking about it. No one expects for their friend to do it. No one expects for their friend to continue to make comments or anything about their marriage. Like I said, I think in episode 5 or 6, and I said this in my previous review of that episode, we had been introduced to Contessa's best friend, Dr. Britton. Dr. Britton would not have done what Heavenly did. Simone would not have done what Heavenly has done. Dr. Jackie would not have done what Heavenly has done. Toya would not have done what Heavenly has done. Mariah would not have done what Heavenly has done. Quad did not or would not have done what Heavenly has done. All of the ladies knew Contessa's business. They knew what was going on. They were privy to the information. Yet, like I said, what they said behind closed doors is one thing. But when they got in front of that TV screen and that camera, they said nothing more about Contessa's marriage. Whether they agreed with Contessa or not, they did not continue to talk. Heavenly is the only one that has made Contessa's marriage, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, Heavenly is the only one that has made Contessa's marriage the topic of conversation. She's the only one that has made it a bigger deal than what it needed to be. It seems to us that Contessa has moved on and her and Scott are doing better than ever. Whether it's true or not, we're not in their home, so we don't know. But that's what they paint. That's the picture that they're painting for us. We're seeing that they're doing okay. So Heavenly, regardless of whether Contessa talked about it every day, all day, 24/7 for 365 days, the point of the matter is that that lady is back with her husband, and you should not ever mention it again. And if you were ever her friend, that's even more reason for you not to ever mention it again. Case closed. Period. Exclamation point. But Heavenly's not a real friend. Heavenly, like I said before, Heavenly is more about this show. And I think because people love Heavenly so much, they refuse to acknowledge who and what Heavenly is. If you had a friend like that, the way some of y'all act and how y'all support Heavenly and support the drama and the craziness and the madness, you and Heavenly would have gotten into a fight a long time ago, because most of y'all out there would not even tolerate a friend doing that to you. Spreading your business and talking about it to other people. Oh no. You wouldn't go for that. Most people wouldn't go for that. So that's why I stand where I am. And a lot of people who are Heavenly's fans and Heavenly stands, you guys honestly are probably the main ones that would have lost it on Heavenly a long time ago had it really been a real situation in your lives. But it's okay. We'll go on from that, because everyone has their favorites, and I'm not here, like I said, to bash Heavenly at all. I just feel how I feel, because I do feel like now at this point, in season 11 versus when Heavenly came in season 2. I just feel like Heavenly's doing way too much to try to keep the show going. And I think she's sort of ruining her friendships and relationships along the way. And she's burning a bridge with everyone because of how she does things. So that's the way I feel. But anyway, like I said, this show is more, so much more to me than just what Dr. Heavenly is doing. But to me, it just showed that their little conversation, they agreed to kind of just move forward, but we know that it won't stay that way. And we'll see that later. So anyway, we go on. Toya and Dr. Eugene have a conversation. They're preparing for their anniversary party. Poor Dr. Eugene got hurt. Shout out to my boy, Dr. Eugene. I really love Dr. Eugene. Like I said, he's a native Washingtonian like myself. And he's also a Bison like me. So I always try to shout him out when I can. But anyway, I felt bad because something happened where the little golf cart or something, it needed to be charged. And I think Toya and the boys, they didn't do what they needed to do. And of course, Dr. Eugene was to the rescue as a husband, dad, and, doing all things. And I think he said the tow truck or something kind of backed up on his foot, and he had like a little foot injury. But anyway, of course, Dr. Eugene, he's a trooper. He knows exactly what to do medically to make sure that his foot gets the best care. And so they were just having a discussion. They were talking about, how the party was going to go. Of course, they're worried because they don't want to necessarily leave anyone out. They want everyone to participate and to celebrate their anniversary. And I could see where Toya is kind of troubled and she's kind of teeter-tottering back and forth. She did not like the things that T said to her when they had the lunch, but Dr. Eugene was also, of course, Dr. Eugene is pretty level-headed, so he was saying that he could see it both ways. Like, of course, yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes, you may have to step back, and when you feel a certain way or you feel like you're not getting the support, that can ultimately affect you in a way. And he was trying to explain that to Toya, and then Toya kind of saw what Dr. Eugene was saying, and I agreed with him. I'm not fully supporting Dr. G and T, and I'm not fully supporting King and Quad. I think that there has to be, if they're going to be on the show together, they both have to do their parts to sort of make it work, because it is a divide in the group and it does cause division in the group. Now I will say, I do not agree at all with what Dr. G is doing as far as pressing charges against King. I think that is so asinine. I think that's so silly and so foolish, and he's really showing just how petty he is. But at the same time, Dr. G is a man, and his issue is sort of different from what I see with the rest of the group. I don't like how they treat T. I feel like they run over T. They mistreat her. They treat her as if she's nothing. And then when she responds because she's angry with them and she's angry about how she's been treated, then they want to say she's crazy and she's overreacting and she's volatile, or she has these issues wherein she's just tired of being mistreated. And so I can see that. So hopefully, I don't know how this whole Bridgerton thing is going to turn out. This party's going to turn out, but we will see. I don't know if everyone will come to the party. It looks in the previews that I did see G and T. I don't know if Quad and Keena actually came or not, but we will see how it turns out. So anyway, also, and I want to make mention too, which was very important, Dr. Contessa also mentioned to Heavenly that she wanted to have a diabetes awareness event, which is very, very good. I love when this group gets together and talks about the medical missions, or they do a medical mission, or they have some type of medical event, because they are doctors. And that is what we love about Married to Medicine. Like I even mentioned, I don't even think I mentioned it, but I was kind of upset that there was so much drama on the Key West trip that they didn't even do a medical mission like they normally do. So that just goes to show me again that they're getting away from what the show is really about, and they're thriving more off of the drama. But Dr. Contessa in this episode actually brought it back to, a medical event, which is something that I love to see them do and participate in. So they were actually preparing for that. And so let me go to my notes a little bit, because I don't want to leave anything out. Like I said, That's what I was going to leave out. I'm glad I looked down. Quad had a little date night for King. This is all before Contessa's event. Quad had a little date night for King at her house, and they were having a typical conversation between a couple, and they were sitting in the jacuzzi, and so Quad was saying, "Look, we've been together for over a year. We're hardly ever apart. You know, if you're not here, I'm normally at your place." And Quad was just basically asking, "How does that look going forward?" So Quint King, being a man, of course, he was saying as a man, it's a natural progression that they will move and, have their own place. And King suggested that, perhaps they can just buy a place together and maybe Quad could keep her place and rent it out or whatever the case. But I think King just wants to be, in his way, a provider for Quad. And of course, you can see Quadria Webb, honey, her that brain was twirling and twisting and all kinds of things, because Quad is not about to give up her independence. That's one of the things that she struggled with in her first marriage to Dr. G. And after what happened with Dr. G, she's definitely not going to do it now. I think that will be an issue for Quad going forward. Quad is just not that girl. She's not going to submit that much. And hopefully it won't be the demise of her relationship with King. He seems to be very understanding. He knows that she's had a past. He accepts it, and he tries to be very patient with her. So hopefully, it won't it won't cause any issues, but I can see that Quad there's definitely going to be a sort of push and pull between them, because Quad does not want to give up her independence. She really, really, really doesn't. She is struggling with that. She's just not that girl. So it would be best for Quad to keep her house if they were to move forward and to try to get another home. Quad would definitely keep her house. I can't see it any other way. And it shouldn't even be another way. I'm not even saying that she's wrong in what she's saying. I'm just saying that you can just see that Quad is not the typical woman who would just sort of move forward with her man and not look back. Quad is definitely Quad is one of those people. Quad is from Memphis, Tennessee. Quad loves to relish in the fact that she's sort of self-made and she bought her home on her own and she's made money on her own, and she doesn't want anyone to take that from her. So she doesn't see herself sort of giving in that way. And like I said, hopefully it won't present a problem as it did with Dr. G. I don't think so, but hopefully it won't, because it could, but hopefully it won't. So anyway, we'll see what happens with them probably next season, because that will probably be her storyline for next season, how her and King are moving forward in their relationship, and if they're sort of moving toward marriage or whatever the case may be. So we'll see. So anyway, they had the actual medical mission. Well, let me stop rushing. Simone and Cecil meet with Michael and Miles. I don't even want to talk about that much. Dr. Simone told the boys, hey, maybe, you having this apartment is not going to work because you're not keeping it up. You're not even holding up your end of the bargain, which was to keep the place neat and clean. They haven't even really asked them for money, but, Simone was saying, hey, if you want to keep it, then you're going to have to pay for it, because other than that, we can't not only pay for this apartment, but then keep it clean as well. And, like I said, I don't want to talk too much about that, because Michael and Miles have really good parents who are looking out for them. Most young people would love to have have their own apartment, even at that age, a really, really nice apartment that they don't have to pay for, and all they have to do is keep it clean. Like, I can think back to when I was in my 20s, if my parents had said, okay, Erica, we're going to give you this apartment and all you have to do is keep it clean. That's it? Great. You got a deal. It's not a problem at all. You know what I'm saying? And not have to pay for anything and not have to worry, because oftentimes as you're becoming a young adult, you tend to worry. You want to live in a nice place. You want to get out on your own, but you're also still sort of struggling with your money because you're not where you want to be as of yet. So to have them to be so immature and so nonchalant and really just acting as if like it's unimportant. I can't get with that. They're too silly for me. Miles and Michael are brothers. They've always had fun together, but you guys are not 11 and 10 and 11 years old anymore. Like, even sitting in front of your parents, I think they should have had a little more respect and been able to listen without the giggling and the rolling of the eyes and all of that. So that scene was kind of like, ugh, to me. I was just a little upset with the boys over that. Those are Simone and Cecil's children. I don't have to worry about it. But as a viewer, I just feel like they're very ungrateful and that I would have expected a little more out of those boys. They are very smart boys, but I would have expected a little more out of them. So I was a little disappointed. So anyway, now we can move. I've been rushing. I don't even know why I've been rushing to. Maybe I'm trying to get through this review because I don't want it to be too long. But now we get to Dr. Contessa's medical event. And it was set up really nice. They had a lot of good information. I like what, Dr. Contessa and Dr. Scott are doing even for their own business and their own medical facility. I think it's called Chastain Medical Facility or something like that, or Chastain Medical Group. And I like what they're doing because they're sort of putting that out there just to get more eyeballs on that as well. And it was good. Everyone pretty much showed up. The only people that weren't there was Dr. Simone and Cecil. And I think that was about it, because it seems like and Toya and Dr. Eugene didn't come as well, but everyone else was there. So of course, Contessa wanted a nice, clean event. She didn't want any drama. And it just so happens that, well, let me just say this. The women had their discussion about bringing the group back together, and also the men had their discussion. Now, let me just say, Dr. Steve and Mimi were there. I like Dr. Steve. He's very vocal. He was very open and honest about how he felt. He said he had spoken with King, and he said King is willing to move forward and to have a conversation with Dr. G. And Scott was just kind of telling the guys that, Dr. G just does not seem to be there. He's still trying to go forward and pressing the charges. And I don't think the men like that. The men actually feel like Dr. G is going too far. And Dr. G feels like, oh, well, these men are my friends and they're not taking my side. Well, they don't have to take your side, Dr. G, in something that they feel is 100% wrong. If it's something that they morally just don't agree with, they're not going to actually support you in this, and they don't have to. The only thing that I had an issue with, Dr. Damon did say, hey, what Dr. G is doing is bad because it could affect King professionally. Well, Dr. Damon, you're 100% right, and that's why what Heavenly said about Dr. G was horrible, and you refuse to acknowledge it. When Heavenly called Dr. G the P word, that could have affected him professionally. So for you to say that about King, but then not try to acknowledge that about Dr. G, all because you may have a little issue with him, I didn't like that. Now, the other men, I agree with them. Curtis said that Dr. G sort of kind of, started the whole thing because King was really just there standing around and listening. And, Dr. Steve was Dr. Steve. Steve was saying that he doesn't agree with, what he's doing. He kind of feels like, Dr. G is his own man, but Steve was kind of saying maybe G is letting his ego sort of get in the way of what's doing the right thing. And so, like I said, but Dr. Scott said the men have to handle it their way. They have to step back. Dr. G is going to be who he is, and he's going to do it. So at that point, Gregory and T had not made it to the event, so they were just having their conversation. So anyway, the women, they had their conversation, and Contessa and Quad were having a discussion, and Quad was saying, I'm only here basically because the Lunsfords aren't here, but I don't like it because my man can't come around, and that is my safety net, that's my protection. And so Contessa has always been pretty fair in this group. I'm not saying she hasn't had her moments, but overall, we're talking about overall, Dr. Contessa has been one of the more fair women in this group. So she said, Qual, we can fully support you. We can say that we want you around, but that doesn't mean that we have to shun or mistreat T. And I agree with Contessa on that. Dr. G, what he's doing is, like I said, to me, is just very foolish. But again, the way T has been or has not been supported in this group and they brought her onto the show, I just really feel some kind of way. I know, like I said, I know. T and Dr. G did not have to come back to the show. They didn't have to agree to come to the show. At that particular time, Qual was pretty much on the outs. It looked as if at that time that Qual really wasn't going to even be a part of Married to Medicine anymore. So I think that's what made the transition somewhat easy, because Qual wasn't around. But now she wasn't there a lot for season 10. Now in season 11, she's around a lot more. So of course it's caused more issues. Dr. G and T are going to have to make a choice of whether they're going to continue to do the show or not. I don't know if the decision will be made for them or if they will have the opportunity to make the decision. Either way, something's going to have to give, because they cannot be around each other, or they're not agreeing to being around each other. But if they're going to continue to be on the show, they're going to have to find a way to actually, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull my shirt down. They have to find a way to actually sort of like tie it all together and bring it all together and make sure that they can be not just a cohesive group, but that it won't be an issue every time, or they won't be clashing every time they're around each other. So Contessa said, hey, this T hasn't gotten a lot of support. She's a newly married woman and she's coming to a group where she doesn't really know anyone. She's having some issues with Dr. G in her own way, and she doesn't have any support. And I agree with Contessa on that. Like I said, it's not about who you like or don't like all the time. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And again, I just feel like if it were you would not want to be in a new friend group. If you started dating a guy and you guys got married and you were, just say you moved and relocated to a new town and you were constantly around his friends, but they never seemed to treat you right, or they never seemed to take your side, or you just felt like an outsider, you would feel really, really bad about that. And you would have some sort of reaction to it. You may not, maybe it would just shut you down. Maybe you wouldn't go around. Maybe, in this situation, of course they have to film, she can't do that because they are filming, but in some sort of way it would probably affect you. So I can see how and why T feels the way she does in many instances, because I do feel like these women have not sort of pulled her in and tried to really even make her feel welcome. So I can agree with Contessa on that. Quad, again, she has the support of the fans now, and Quad is not changing. Quad really wants them now to kick Dr. G and T out of the group. And the group, I think that if they had to make a choice, they will choose Quad and King, but they're still on the fence about it, and they don't feel the absolute best about having to do that. So that's where the issue comes in. So, of course, Contessa and Quad were going back and forth, and it was just like a little small exchange. There wasn't a whole lot of hostility or animosity, but, Heavenly's working. She's, okay, I got to make this scene and turn it on me, and I got to make a moment. I got to create a moment. So, Heavenly, she did say, which was true, she did mention that, that Dr. G was filing charges, and she said, you're getting, basically you're getting the law involved, or not when charges are being filed. We don't have to accept that. I understand what Heavenly's saying. I agree with that. But at the same time, Heavenly, Dr. Contessa wasn't necessarily talking about Dr. G, and this is what she's saying. Everything is not about Dr. G. It's also about T as a woman, because there are times when we film and it's just the ladies. No men are involved. And I think that's what she was trying to get Quad to see, is that we can focus on Dr. G, but Dr. G is also a separate entity at times, because he's not always around. T is around us a lot more than G. How can we incorporate her? So Heavenly had a little attitude, and of course Heavenly wants to, stroke Quad's ego and, make Quad feel like she's Team Quad. Heavenly's not Team Quad. Heavenly is Team Married to Medicine. But, she'll do this because it appears to be that, she has Quad's back, and Quad needs that. So, of course, what I like what Contessa said, okay, you can go. Like, if you're getting ready to make this bigger than what it is, or you're getting ready to make this something that it doesn't have to be, you can go. And that's what a lot of these women, that's why I tolerate Contessa, and I kind of like Contessa, because Contessa has had her issues with Heavenly, and she's not afraid just to be accepted back into the group. She's not afraid to go against Heavenly or to say how she feels. And so she told them they can go. And so Quad, she wasn't putting Quad out, but she did tell Heavenly, you're excused, you can go, because I see where you're getting ready to go, and I'm not going to even allow you to go there. So Jackie was trying to tell Heavenly to quiet down. Of course, Heavenly, Dr. Jackie has no influence over Heavenly. They say they're BFFs, but they have Dr. Jackie has no influence over Heavenly. When Heavenly gets in that mode and Heavenly wants to act crazy or act out, nothing and no one can stop her. But, they agreed to leave. So Quad said, well, if the Lunsfords are coming, then I'm going to go. So they exited, stage left, and they, left the event or whatever the case may be. And then, Greg and T came, and because they had already agreed just to come for the last hour or so. But anyway, so T comes over, and you could tell that T, she felt a little funny because she was there with Dr. Jack and Dr. Mimi. She seemed to be very happy to see them, and I really genuinely believe that T wants to be a part of this group, a part of their little sisterhood. She does feel uncomfortable, but I feel like she does want to be there. So she hugged Dr. Jackie, Dr. Mimi, Dr. Contessa. She said, yeah, sometimes I do feel bad. Sometimes I don't feel like I get the proper treatment mentally. I am exhausted mentally. I do feel beat down. And I'm glad, because I want T to speak up for herself. You don't have to act out. You don't have to argue with them, but you need to be able to express yourself and tell these women exactly how you feel, and tell them exactly what they're doing. You can't, they can't read your mind, and they're not going to even try to. So you have to be very upfront with these women. So I was glad that she said that, but I was also glad that Dr. Contessa was trying to tell T, hey, you listen, you deserve to be here, but you also have to take accountability. You also have to speak up for yourself, and you also have to be honest that perhaps maybe Dr. G is going a little too far, and because of that, it is affecting you. So that was kind of like the end of the actual episode. We will see what happens next week, because it is the final episode of the season. But what do you guys think? I mean, number one, how do you feel about Contessa telling Heavenly that she needed to go? Do you feel like, Contessa was out of line with that? Or do you feel like Heavenly was, out of line with what she was doing? How do you really feel about T? I know a lot of people don't like T, but how do you really feel about how T has been treated in this group? Do you think that T has been treated fairly? Or do you think that some of the ladies could have done a better job of how they handle her? What do you think about Dr. G? Do you feel like Dr. G is going too far? Do you think the men are saying it right that, yeah, Dr. G sort of started it, and now it's sort of like, he's taking it too far? How do you feel about that? Some people feel like Dr. G is well within his rights because he is a professional. Some people are actually supporting Dr. G and his whole stance with the King and Quad thing. A lot of people, we're saying that we're okay with King. We don't have a problem with him. But there are a lot of people that actually are, against King and Quad and how they handled that whole situation. A lot of people are blaming Quad for it. So tell me what you think in the comment section. I would love to know how you feel about it. Please feel free to, of course, just leave me some, words if you don't want to say anything or you just want to say, hey, I appreciate that as well. Also, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I am a new YouTuber. I get on here every week and talk about the fact that I just started as a YouTuber and doing reviews of the shows. But I would greatly even appreciate it if you would just subscribe to my channel. That would make me feel really good. And also, like I said, just like the video. And leave a little comment. I hope to see you soon. We'll see what happens next week. The previews for next week look pretty good. So, like I said, it's the end of the actual season, and so we can say we finally made it through together. So anyway, enjoy your day. I will be back with more. I'm going to actually do, I did Married to Medicine before I do Real Housewives of Atlanta, but I am going to do a review on them as well. So stay tuned. Check me out. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful day. And like I say, be kind to yourself. We always say be kind to others, and that is true. We should be, but also be kind to yourself. Sometimes we're hard on ourselves far more than we need to be sometimes. So I hope you get to smile. I hope something makes you laugh today. And I hope you have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, guys. Love you guys. Bye.